Savage here at GladrapChannel. With me today we've got a born and bred Aucklander, economist, director, manager of the Morgan Foundation.
Previously, before this whole thing kicked off. Yeah.
And famously quoted for saying, or being a central radicalist, or radically central, or centrist. Welcome today, Geoff Simmons.
Thanks, Isaac.
Well, we're here in Piha at the mill camp today on this beautiful day. You couldn't ask for a better day, right?
It's beautiful. It is beautiful. I just wish I'd brought my togs. I actually came here as an intermediate school kid. Went to a school camp here, so it's quite weird to be back. Yeah.
Well, it's obviously we've got an interesting next few months leading up to September this year, and you've only just come back to New Zealand. How are you finding it so far?
Oh no, just back to Auckland. So yeah, I have been in. I've been living in Wellington last few years, but grew up here and moved back for over the summer for the campaign. And no, it's great. It's great to. I mean, I'd love to live in Auckland permanently if I could afford a house.
Yeah.
Currently living with the parents, which is a bit of a throwback, but it's quite nice in its own way.
Home cooked meals can't beat mum's cooking, right?
That's right. That's right. Dad's cooking. Sorry, Dad.
Oh, he'll be out there watching. Look, we went with Gareth last week. It was interesting to hear his story. Obviously, you and him have a very close relationship.
Yeah.
He, expressed his views, and obviously said that you're going to be leading the Opportunity Party, in a sense, or be the face of the Opportunity Party. And he said it came up all basically not by chance, but he pretty much asked you, "Do you want to run with this?" And what was your response?
Yeah. Well, we were talking about what was happening in Mount Albert and how National wasn't standing anyone, and how it was left to this kind of odd choice between Labour and the Greens, who are quite close on a lot of their policies, and obviously it was quite a big call for the Opportunities Party to put someone forward, because we haven't got all our policies out and we haven't got our candidate list together or anything like that. But we saw an opportunity there, and
Nice pun.
yeah, and I just sort of said, well, I grew up there, right?
Yeah.
So it seemed like a good, obviously my family are still there, have links with that community, so I thought it'd be good to throw my hat in the ring.
Oh, it's great to see. I mean, after speaking with Gareth last week and then, looking at the website and some of the policies we discussed, some would say radical, but then some, like you said today, practical and logical. And like you were talking about, poking the bear in a sense, no one really has done it. Your experience, like you're saying, in the Treasury and years of being an institution of the government, you realise that you are working, but you're not really changing or contributing to society in a way that what you're doing now.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think, like I was saying, the incentives once you're within government, once you're a career politician, is to talk about change, promise change, and then look like you're doing something without really doing anything, so that you don't upset anyone, right?
Yep.
So looks like you're making an effort, looks like you care, and by the time people have realised that what you're doing is ineffective, it's a few years later and everyone's forgotten about it, or perhaps you've even moved on. So that's really frustrating to sort of watch that cycle from outside, and being involved in the public service or for an advocacy organisation like the Morgan Foundation, where you're pushing for evidence-based changes, and politicians constantly say to you, well, yeah, but no one will vote for that. So, here's your opportunity, public. If you're
That's the beauty of it as well. You're walking the talk, because you've been on one side, which has been government. Now you're on the other side trying to push policy reforms. It's not like you've just jumped in, from a non-political background. So you've been on both sides, which gives you quite a good holistic view on how you can actually push things forward.
Yeah. I mean, both Gareth and I have worked in this area for economics and policy for all of our careers, and so we've done the research. We know the sorts of things that will make a difference. It's just a question of of whether people want to do them or not.
It's quite interesting. We had a bit of a laugh with Gareth last week about the foundation, and because he's quoted for saying when he got that 50 million, that he would just give it away. Yeah. And he said it actually would have been easier to just put the money in a plane and drop it out, because we talked about the process of, you work with the foundation, and it's a great thing, but it is quite challenging because you don't just really give out the money. There's actually a bit of a process behind it.
That's right. It's very difficult to, of course, as soon as you're a charity or a funder of things, everyone wants money, but demonstrating the return on that investment it's very difficult to do. It's very difficult to find projects that are sustainable, that are going to stick around and that actually do make a difference. There's unlimited need for more money out there, and everyone thinks that their project is the best. But how can you create something that causes ongoing change? Demonstrating a new way of working, that's a lot more complicated.
I like the breakdown too of the 80% in terms of 80% of the population know who Gareth Morgan is.
Yep.
40% is because of his his involved with politics, the economy, being an economist, and the other 40% is the whole cat thing, and then the chip and clip. And you pointed out a really good thing about the media today is that sometimes they do convolute things, and someone's just known for one thing. But when you delve deeper into what has actually been implemented, it's actually a good thing. Like you said about the cats, it's being implemented across New Zealand, chip and clip.
Yeah. I mean, I think we're seeing councils picking it up. The SPCA and Vets Association are very much on board with managing cats. It's good because it's good for cats and it's good for wildlife. So it does make sense. But yeah, it does. Any sort of change is always going to attract some controversy and stuff.
And putting cats aside, moving on to controversy, or I guess radical reforms, what are some of the policies and what are the demographics that you are reaching out to or wanting to capture in New Zealand?
Well, that's part of the reason we're here out in Piha today, talking to the Make a Difference Hui, which is a group of young adults who are coming up with ideas to make a difference in society. And I would have to say that the Opportunities Party is really a party for the young. Of course, we'd love everyone to vote for us if they care about young people having opportunities, but it is very much focused on the young, because really the game has been rigged in this country. It's been rigged. The table has been tilted in favour of the baby boomers for quite some time in terms of lots of policy areas, and so we've got young people now who are increasingly switching off from society, not bothering to vote, and you can kind of see why. They have to take on a debt to get an education so that they can afford to take on a debt to get a house, and meanwhile they've got to pay for the health and superannuation of baby boomers, and by the way, while you're at it, can you fix climate change and dirty rivers at the same time?
Exactly.
I think that can be overwhelming for a lot of young people, and so what we're really saying is, actually we need a shift. We need to shift that playing field back to level, so that young people do have the chance to get ahead.
Would it be anyone from 18 up to say 40 years old? Would that be the key target demographic?
Yeah, I'd even say from 0 to
okay.
0 to upwards. Unfortunately, they don't get to vote, which is part of the problem. So that's why you say 18. But yeah, no, I would say that. Anyone up until mid to late 40s, I would say, would fit within that demographic. Yeah.
Because some of the reforms, and we could get into them later, there would be an age demographic that you would cut out in a sense, or wouldn't vote for you because some of the policies that you have just wouldn't really apply to them. And this is one thing Gareth said, they need to take their head out of the trough really and look out for the greater good. But people are a little bit selfish at times, and they'll vote for a organisational government that benefits them.
Yeah.
And some of the policies in place that you have might not benefit the 60 and above.
That's true, and I can tell you right now that doesn't mean that there's no one in those age groups that support us, because we do have people that looking at our own volunteers in Mount Albert, we have a few elderly people amongst those, and they say to us, look, we care about our grandkids having a chance to get ahead in society, and that's why they're engaging. So there are people that kind of see beyond their own self-interest, but yeah, generally speaking, of course, I think that sort of 50, 60 plus age group will probably find it a little bit harder to swallow our policies. But what I say to them is that actually you should be more worried if we aren't successful, because change is coming. The current setup is unsustainable, and that means that it will change. It will have to change at some stage, and if we don't do it, then it's going to come later, and it'll be much more of a jolt then. It's always better to change early if change is inevitable.
Well, that's a really good point you make, and things are happening around the world. Social media is changing the way we communicate. I have to bring it up. Obviously, American politics, Trump, he's definitely a guy that's making a change, for good or bad. What are your thoughts on the whole American election, how it went down?
Well, interesting talking to young folks here just about that now. And I mean, of course, that new media is playing a massive role there, and is something that is quite encouraging for us in terms of being able to get out new messages to people, new ways of getting messages out, to change that conversation. Trump is interesting because he really does seem to be getting young people engaged, not just in America but also here in New Zealand. And to give him credit, there is something about his style that I was just discussing with these young people here. He talks plainly, he talks bluntly, and of course sometimes that's offensive, but at least people know where he's coming from. And so I think there is, there's something that politicians and leaders have to take from that maybe people are getting tired of the over-PR'd, over-engineered, public conversation where it's so convoluted that no one really understands what our leaders are saying. So time for some straight talk, which is hopefully what the Opportunities Party brings. But the other side to it, of course, is that the scary side to Trump is that polarization that we're seeing. It's partly that's brought him to power, but also that he's using to embed his power. And hopefully that is something that we can avoid here in New Zealand. Hopefully we are a few years behind the international trends. That tends to be the way, and this is one of the advantages of being a few years behind, as you can say.
Yeah, good point.
Actually, we don't want to go down the Trump and Brexit route. We want to actually solve these issues now so that our society doesn't end up going down that polarised route. And that's really, again, part of the genesis of the Opportunities Party. Can we solve these issues of housing and inequality and the environmental threats that young people are having to deal with?
Well, it's quite refreshing to see. I actually was speaking to someone last week, and I said, have you looked at some of the Opportunities Party? And sometimes they'll give me a strange look, but have they actually read, the policies, and what you guys are putting in place are quite practical, holistic, and for the greater good in New Zealand, obviously for the housing, immigration, and sustainability. Now the housing, it's the repetitive question that everyone wants to know, how are we going to fix it? Really, there is no short-term solution to the housing prices in New Zealand, is there?
there's certainly no quick fix. I mean, what we're talking about is just getting some policies in place that'll make sure that prices don't rise anymore, and so that over the long term, people can, as their incomes grow, they'll be able, that housing affordability will return. But yeah, I mean, we've gotten ourselves so deeply in this, in this mess that you're right, there is no quick fix. However, at the moment, we're not even really, we're not even putting in slow fixes.
Exactly, yeah. And then you said today, you can fix it if you want to go live in Greymouth, Reefton or Invercargill.
Yeah.
But then, no disrespect to those cities, some young people or people don't want to live there in general. Just because it's not the right lifestyle for them, and they'd rather live in a bigger city such as Auckland, Wellington, or Christchurch.
Yeah, we're seeing really different demands from our young people today. They do want to live in a big city. They do want to live centrally. They don't necessarily want to drive a car. So again, all of the sorts of things that baby boomer voters have long cherished, which is urban sprawl, more cars, more roads, those sorts of things. They're not necessarily the things that the young people of today actually want. We need to get those preferences reflected.
And speaking of that, because I know just from talking to you today and following some of the policies, you are going to get a lot of young people behind you, with some of your policies and social media. How are you going to find it in politics though, in the House? Have you met any of the representatives yet, and has there been any resistance?
Oh, I mean, Gareth and I have known many politicians for years, just from the work that we've done in the past, and we're used to talking to them about our ideas and having them say, well, yeah, totally agree with that, but we, no one votes for it, so we can't do it. So, I mean, this is a chance for us to test that, and of course, if we are successful and start to attract a bit of a following, I'm sure we'll come under fire from different organisations. But we just have to we just have to rely on our strengths, which is speaking the truth and speaking evidence and trusting that people can see through some of the smoke screens that other people will throw at.
Like you said, the popular vote is usually, some things that aren't popular that will go against the grain and not allow someone to go through to the next election won't get pressed forward. But your ideas and views are total opposite of that. You want what's best for New Zealand, regardless of where it's going to get you next. You just want a greater good an outcome for New Zealanders, right?
That's right. I mean, the ideal for us would actually be if other parties nicked our policies.
Yeah.
We could go to the beach, So that would be fantastic. Neither Gareth nor I want to be career politicians, but if no one else is gonna push these ideas, then we'll give them a nudge.
We actually asked Gareth that last week. In some crazy world, what happens if you became Prime Minister? And he said he wouldn't want it. And that's the thing I'd ask you. Say you get the 5%, you get 10, you even get above that, and you will have to go through again. Will you be looking for other young leaders to join the party for those people to walk in your footsteps next?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I think that has to be the way. I mean, we are, we're a startup. We're a political startup, and Gareth certainly won't be around for forever, not even particularly long, I think. So we will have to make sure that we grow a really strong team quite quickly. In terms of Prime Minister, I mean, if we were that, you know, mainstream, we'd kind of assume that our job had been done.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
And that we wouldn't be needed anymore. You know, I personally speaking, and I think you know, Gareth is a little bit like this too. But you'd start to worry that if you were that popular, are you actually pushing the boundary enough, or have you sold out?
yeah, that's a good point, and I think that's going to get a lot of views. A lot of people following you in that sense, because you're not the mainstream. You're not just trying to please everyone. You're actually going against the grain, but logical, practical policies.
Yeah.
You know? And that's something that we've been talking about a lot lately. I was reading on the website as well. Immigration was another thing that came up. We talked to Gareth about that. His wasn't really about the refugees. Of course, we should allow more refugees in.
Yeah.
But more so the type of immigrants that are being allowed into New Zealand. I read the statement saying, if you can contribute and make New Zealand a better place, you know, welcome.
Yeah.
If not, thanks, but no thanks.
Yeah,
and it was a little, like you said, it was quite blunt, a little bit Trumpish, but then I don't disagree with that. Why would you disagree with someone that isn't going to contribute to society and bring it down?
Well, I think what you've got to understand about politics is that the short term, you know, the short term pressures often are what play heavily on this sort of stuff. And I think, you know, with the downturn of the economy following the sort of the dairy slump that we saw, there was pressure on our government to keep the economy ticking over. And I think migrants generally, of course, while they may not necessarily lift the living standards of everyone, they do, you know, more people does mean some growth, right?
Yep.
And so that was one way to keep the economy ticking over, but particularly that kind of that student, that export education sector, I think the government tried to crank that up, and you know, sometimes when you do that, you crank the handle too far, and it actually you start to lose the quality, and you start to get some rorts coming into the system, and I think that's exactly what happened over that period. So I don't think that was you know, their intention. Oh, let's you know, get some immigrants in who aren't going to add to the country. But it's kind of like a side effect from just a short term view. Sure.
Okay. Now, and talking about the sustainability side of things. I read a little bit on the website. I hear you're a bit of an advocate yourself, planting the trees and whatnot. Yeah. You mentioned a certain spillage in Waitemata. I wasn't aware of that.
Yeah. So in the Waitemata Harbour, there's actually raw sewage going into it. Every time there's a substantial downpour in Auckland, the pipes can't handle, because they're mixed stormwater and sewage. They can't handle that sort of capacity of the rain, and so what ends up happening is that raw sewage, instead of going to the sewage station, it ends up spilling into the harbour.
Can't be good.
It's terrible. It really is terrible. Quite shocking for a world-class city that we consider ourselves to be, and you know, that has meant that places like Cox's Bay and the area around Meola Reef are no-go zones in terms of swimming. And you know, I guess there's a couple of things about that. I mean, you know, for starters, it's gross.
Just putting it out there.
But secondly, if we are going to have more people, you know, in Auckland, if we're going to increase the density, have more infill housing, which I certainly don't object to if that's how people want to live. We need to take greater care of what green space we do have. You know, we need to make sure that stuff is looked after even more, with even greater amounts of respect. And the broader thing is just an issue of integrity. You know, most city people are upset at the treatment of our rivers at the hands of intensive farming, and certainly that is an issue, but we can't really complain if we're doing it in our own backyard. Exactly.
One of the things we talked about last week, you need to get that 5% past that threshold to get across the line. Gareth said one of the things that when he interviewed or they did a survey on young people was the thing that interested them most was legalising cannabis and marijuana. Now, what are your thoughts on that? Is it going to be something you'll push forward?
Well, what we're actually talking about, because we'd like to use this as an example of one of the ideas that we're talking about in our democracy reset policy, which is the idea that one way to engage more people in democracy to try and stop the drop in voter statistics is to actually get them involved in decision making, get people involved in decision making. So we want to trial this within our own party, and we thought that drug reform would be a good subject to start with. So we are going to put in place a process which brings together members of our party and experts and allows them to go through the issues and design a drug reform policy that not only it's kind of like the ends justifies the ends and the means justifies the means. Hopefully we'll get a policy that engages people, but will also engage people during the process of creating that policy.
It was interesting. Someone asked today, who would you join a coalition with, or who would you join? And you said that, it wouldn't be. First of all, it wouldn't be Winston Peters, who's probably the last person. And you got some of your policies fit in with Greens. Some of them obviously don't. And then you got Labour and National on the side. Now, would you align with anyone in particular, or is it just whoever would want to work for you?
Yeah, I think the key thing for us is being able to implement as many of our policies as possible, and if we could further that with National or Labour, that would be fine. We do have some quite on the environmental side we have a lot of similarities with the Greens, but when it comes to economic issues, we're a little bit different from them. So
totally,
Gareth likes to, we're still working out how we describe ourselves. He likes the term blue-green. I, as you know, coined the term radically centrist.
Yes.
As another way of looking at it. But yeah, I think we can potentially work with anyone who is just interested in these sorts of policies.
Were you at Waitangi last weekend? Did you go?
I didn't go. No. Gareth and Nick went up to that. I was busy campaigning here in Auckland.
I was just going to ask how it went, if you did run into Winnie or soon. I wouldn't say arch nemesis, but Jacinda Ardern. You're going to be going up against her very, very soon. She is part of the Mount Albert electorate as well.
Yes, absolutely. Look, both Jacinda and Julianne Genter, who are running in the Mount Albert electorate, I have a great deal of respect for them as people and politicians. But they're already in Parliament.
That's true.
So actually, you're not really voting for them, you're voting for the next people on the list and Labour and the Greens.
That's a good point.
Yeah, so, like I said, greatest amount of respect for them, but they're in Parliament and I'm not, so,
Is there going to be, close to the time, any sort of debate, or will there be a square off, in a sense, in the public domain?
There are some debates next week. Spinoff's having a debate on Wednesday night, and there's talk about some other debates. It'll always be interesting to see which of the candidates turn up or get engaged.
Is this going to be televised?
On the Spinoff one?
Yes.
Yeah, it'll be online anyway.
Perfect.
And so that's next Wednesday night. So Wednesday the 15th.
So with dynamic duo, you and Gareth, or
no, just myself and Julianne and Jacinda.
I'm looking forward to that because obviously they're career politicians. They've been doing it a wee while. You've got an economist background. You've got a regular radio show. Is that still going?
No, I don't. ever since entering politics, I haven't been able to do that on RNZ, which is unfortunate.
So, but that would give you a bit of experience. You're no stranger to getting on the mic and putting forward your opinion.
Yeah.
How long did that show go for, and did you enjoy it?
Loved it. Yeah. I did that for the best part of last year. Yeah. So that was a great experience being with Jesse Mulligan. Jesse's
he's a good character, eh?
Great character and very easy to bounce off. And no, that was a great experience, and really enjoyed, just being able to, because it's a regular slot. It's kind of like an ongoing conversation with people, and that they can, one subject can lead to a question about something else, and you can carry on through.
Did you get any regular callers or any sort of heated debates or abuse over any of those calls?
I got. It's like anything. You do get the odd abusive message, but most people were just curious, and that's really what the slot was all about. Was about exploring the economic issues of the day. Because it's national radio, I tried not to give too much of my inflammatory personal opinion on things.
So you obviously you would have heard of Freakonomics and Super Freakonomics, those sort of books.
Yeah.
And it's interesting to know that you did that show. Back then, were you ever thinking of a career, not a career in politics, but thinking that you'd be doing what you're doing now a year later?
No. Is the short answer.
Okay.
No is the short answer. I mean, this really did come out of nowhere. I don't know if Gareth talked to you about his visit to Syria. Briefly, yeah. But it was a road to Damascus moment for him when a convoy ahead of him got blown up, and he really stopped and had a chance to rethink life. Came back from Syria and said, "I want to go into politics." And so we talked about it for a while, and then went for it.
It's interesting. I heard you say, I love this quote. I might use it, or quote from you, "Manna from heaven." And when you first met Gareth and heard him speak when you come back, some of what he was talking about really resonated with you and was part of sort of your plan on what you wanted to achieve.
Yeah. Well, that was back just when he was setting up the Morgan Foundation, and I'd just come back from England and was sort of scoping around for jobs, and he said he wanted to help inform New Zealanders, about important issues in a fun, engaging way. And I had actually just sort of done some career planning work, if you like, thinking about the sort of stuff I wanted to do, and that was almost exactly what I'd written down.
Wow.
But that I thought I was going to have to sort of work towards that, but it just sort of popped out of nowhere.
After meeting with him and talking to you today, it's the work ethic that you guys have is that it's not that you're going into it with nothing to lose, but you're doing this purely to make a change and hopefully implement some policies that are not part of New Zealand government at the moment.
Yeah.
It's going to be interesting next 9 months as we get closer to D-Day.
Yeah.
And we want to obviously follow you as much as we can. You're on the top.org.co.nz?
top.org.nz, that's it.
Do you have your own, we talked to Gareth about it, your own Twitter or Instagram? He said he likes to get on his after a few wines. Are you the same?
Oh, Gareth, after a few wines. Yeah, but I don't do it after alcohol. I have a strictly no tweeting or Facebooking after...
He said you're a bit more conservative than him, and he's a bit more radical and outspoken. But after meeting with you today, you are a little bit more reserved. But he's, obviously not drinking on the Twitter. That's
Gareth likes the cut and thrust of the argument with people, whereas I enjoy engaging with people, and I'll certainly argue if I have to, but I don't go looking for it quite so much, I suppose. I'm on Twitter, Geoff Simmons, Geoff Simo NZ actually,
Simo NZ,
and we've got a top Facebook page now as well, so facebook.com/topnz. So I'm able to engage directly with people through that.
Okay, I noticed the 4 policies are out, but there's still 3 saying coming soon.
Yes.
When are we going to be able to see those roll out?
Well, education will be out in the next couple of weeks, so just over a week away, I think, is when we're planning on the education policy being out. And then we've got health and climate change to be out before sort of mid-March. So over the next month, you'll see all of them out.
Okay.
Yeah, and then of course we will be running, like I said, our devolved democracy processes to develop other policies. So members will be able to get involved and have their say, have their input into our other policies. So the first one will be drug reform, as we discussed.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting. I know we're really looking forward to those being released. So next Wednesday night, is it, on Spin-Off?
On Spin-Off, yep.
Yep, and we can catch it online.
Yeah, on the Spin-Off website.
It would be good to see you against Ardern and...
Julian Genter, yeah, the Green Party candidate.
That'll be interesting. So how long does that go for? About half an hour?
Crikey, I'm not actually sure how long the debate is going to be. That's one, when you're campaigning, Isaac, it's kind of, you live in one day to the next. It's kind of like you get to the end of the day and you go, oh right, what's tomorrow? Oh right, okay, I better find out about that.
So is it quite different going from what you're doing for a structured role to just every day is so different?
Yeah.
They can change this, that. I mean,
absolutely.
Can you do this interview now?
Yeah.
At the end, you're just going to be. It's just going to be one hell of a ride, isn't it? When you reach that last day.
It will be one hell of a ride, and that'll continue right through to the general election, really. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to summer next year, having a good relaxing time.
Yeah, well, it could be you. That's the thing. We want to point out to young New Zealanders, and what would you like to say as we sort of wrap up today to anyone watching that doesn't know what you guys are about, or should I vote for you? What's the message out to them to get them supporting your cause?
I think the big thing particularly for young people is to vote. Just please get out there and vote and get engaged in the conversation. Find out what options there are out there. That's the biggest thing. We hope to make society better for young people, but if you think you can find your if you think some other party can make your life even better, then by all means vote for them. But just vote, because that's the biggest issue we've got right now is young people not voting, and so your voice isn't getting heard. Yeah, and your society is not being run in your interests. That's the problem.
Well, we appreciate your time. We'll be watching. We'll be tuned in next Wednesday for Spin-Off, and
thanks,
really appreciate your time today.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Awesome.
Thank you very much.
Nice work.